Lynette Deutsch, you're the founder and chair at Indaba Group,
Um,
specializing in C-suite and board level appointments, market intelligence, and leadership and cultural development.
we've changed the market intelligence piece to
Okay.
session planning.
Okay.
The coaching is much more strategic coaching that we work with on the leadership development side of things. So yeah,
Okay. Perfect. And you're also an advisor to many senior execs, true?
absolutely. And also founders.
Lovely. And is it fair to say that you don't necessarily consider it a job, but more a pleasure, a passion, something you love?
It is definitely a passion without a
Yeah.
shadow of doubt. Um, there's some days it's a job, and some,
Okay.
but more day, more weeks and days in the 25 plus years since I set up the business. It's what I love to do.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Calm.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
This is going to be fun. My first question, would you say
Yeah.
you're a calm person, Lynette? Would you consider yourself a calm person?
In the main, yes. I haven't always been a
Okay,
calm. You've met me many years ago, you would have gone, can you just please sit still?
really?
Oh yeah. I still have the odd moment when I go, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But I have to say that mindfulness and meditation have really kept me, on track. I,
Okay.
I know I recognize the triggers. So as soon as I'm feeling overwhelmed or a bit anxious or stressed or whatever, I just stop, I pause and go, wait a minute, I know another way. So, and I breathe.
Right. So, what led you to mindfulness and meditation? So, you mentioned them straight off the bat. Have you
Yeah.
always been into that? Did you
Oh,
discover it at some point?
on and off since my 20s, and I won't tell
Okay.
you where I am now because it's a long time. So I was I was introduced to someone who meditated,
Yeah.
and he did transcendental meditation. So he taught me that. So I used to do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. And then I kind of lost my way. And life got in the way, business got in the way. And then when I set up Indaba, I mean, I was working 7 days a week, 24/7, 7 days a week for a year.
Wow.
I was absolutely exhausted. I could barely say my name. And I just thought, this is no way to run a business and no way to live a life. There has to be another way. And I remembered the meditation in my 20s, and I thought, well, and I remember how it made me feel. I felt in control of my life, I felt calm, and I felt I could handle anything, absolutely anything. Um, and um, I got somehow through some learning of other things, I got into this. And then I just knew I had to follow that path, the meditation path. And
Right.
it's very rare that I skip a day.
Wow. So let me get this straight. So you're exposed to meditation in your 20s,
Yes.
then your practice kind of stopped or was a little bit
Yeah.
hazy, or you just had a phenomenally busy year when you set your business up?
Well, my life got very busy.
Right.
Um, and um, and I found myself to go, I'll do it tonight. Oh, I don't have time up
Yeah,
tomorrow
yeah, yeah.
morning, or don't have time.
Yeah,
So you find excuses and reasons not to,
absolutely.
and then that becomes the habit.
Yeah.
Um, and and when I then many years later, when I set up Indaba in 1999, and my first year, I found myself, I loved what I did, and I still love what I do. And I had this vision, and I knew what I wanted to do, and was refining my purpose as a human. Um, but but I was exhausted after that year, and I thought, there's got to be another way. You can't
Yeah.
keep doing this. You are on your knees, you could barely speak. This is not a way to live. And so that's when I thought, well, wait a minute. when were you at your best? When were you at your calmest? When were you felt that you were in control of your life? And I remembered my 20s, and I
Yeah.
thought that was, back then, and I just thought, okay, so I needed to find a way to get back into that. And that old expression that says, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear.
Mhm.
Um, and I found myself doing a course on something else, but within that, it was a very immersive course. And early in the morning, there were other things that you could attend. And I started attending some meditation. Well, it was more mindful, it was mindfulness meditation. And I just thought, I remember the feeling. And then I found a mentor who is the most extraordinary woman. And she was doing retreats or meditations. They were guided meditations, but they were very profound. And I just got into that. And I went to her retreats in America and here. And, she's been a mentor for a long time. And then I met you. um, and I just thought, you can always deepen your practice.
Yeah.
I'm the permanent and eternal student.
Yeah, me too.
And I think mindfulness is a meditation for me. Although my background is blocked out, my meditation cushion sits in the corner here. So,
Okay.
but I can meditate anywhere.
So what would you say to a senior leader who's listening to this, who thinks, I've read so much good stuff about meditation? There are a million quotes from all sorts of amazing leaders, some extremely well known, some not so well known.
Yeah.
I pulled out a few this morning. I've got one later I'm going to share with you. Really senior leaders doing incredibly busy jobs who say massive things about meditation, who say, I attribute all my success to this, and my single biggest ability is to be able to sit in silence, and all these kind of things they say.
Mm.
What would you say to a leader who's kind of stuck in that thought pattern that you were in, that says, but I don't even take a lunch break. I don't have time. I don't have time to see the kids enough, or go to the gym, or take breaks, or I'm already snowed under. Please don't give me something else to do. I don't need anything on my to-do list. I just don't have time yet.
Um, I would ask the question, what kind of life would you like to live? Is this life that you're living currently, is this your best life?
Right.
And I do ask, when I'm coaching execs, I ask that question.
Yeah.
Also ask them what percentage of you is left at the end of each day.
Okay.
And I normally get a very tiny percentage, it's
Yeah.
100%. And I go, does that work for you? Is that good enough for you? And most of them go, of course not. And I go, okay, so let's take a step back. Let's pause. Let's find the best way for you. And a lot of people think that with meditation, mindfulness, that, and to me, they're one and the same, by the way, that you just have to sit quietly and cross-legged and go, oh, and you go, well, actually, no, there are many forms of meditation.
Mhm.
There was someone I coached who used to ride his bike. I said, he said, I don't, is that meditation? I said, yes. So what does it give you when you've ridden your bike at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And he'll say, I get clarity in my head. I said, hallelujah, hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I say to many people, a lot of execs, we live in a 24/7 world, and it's 24/7 noise. And we've forgotten the art of doing nothing.
Yeah.
We've forgotten the art of just sitting still
Yeah.
and just being.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, our decision making becomes a bit skewed. And we think we're doing great stuff, but are we really? So, so I ask questions around whether they are living their best life, and is this
Mm.
everyone is very busy. And where does well-being come into
Yeah.
their everyday life. You know, many of the people ask me what kind of life I live and how do I manage my day. And if anyone looks at my calendar, you'll see. Well, 3 times a week, I work with a trainer because I have a weird back. But then also, I do Pilates once a week. So I train 4 times a week. But my life is quite disciplined and I choose that. That's my choice.
Hmm.
We choose the life we live.
Yeah.
It's not done to us.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think it is.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting question. And something I know you and I have done it, and I do it with everybody I work with, is look at a typical day and I let the person decide what a typical day in their life looks like. And we go
Exactly.
through it and we have 10 to 15 key activities as they define them. And then we write a little letter next to them, don't we? We say, is that nourishing you? Is it depleting you? Or does it depend?
Absolutely.
And some people have a real kind of awakening when they do that and they look at it and go, my God, like 14 out of 15 things every day of my life, or each typical day at least, but depleting me is no wonder I feel like this.
Yes.
And sometimes just giving them the chance to step back a little bit and say, well, your question was, how much have you got left at the end of a typical day? Give me a number on it.
Yeah.
Maybe the first time they've ever stopped long enough just to reflect and see that. It's a powerful question.
Absolutely. And, I often, um, you know, when I coach someone, I call it homework. I'm not allowed to call it that anymore. Food for thought or things to consider is what they prefer. They obviously had very bad experiences at school.
Yeah.
Um, but, I say, well, when you're at home, what's around you? Do you have a field? Do you have woods near you? Do you live near the sea? You know, and so for homework, I say, go for a walk for 20 minutes in nature. Leave your phone at home.
Nice.
Things like that, as opposed to write down what you are feeling,
Yeah.
you know, which is I'm very happy for people to do that. But there are a lot of people forget, and there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of unknown. And
Mm.
we know that we've been living in this uncertain world for so long, and it's even more uncertain now.
Yeah.
So what can one control in one sphere of influence?
Mm.
You
So
can't control what happens in another country.
yeah. So talking of high stress, what would you say is the highest stakes situation you've been in? And crucially, how did you get through it? What helped you get through it? What can you share with us?
So when I set up in Dava, I left a very safe job.
Oh, you did.
Yes, I didn't like it very much, but it was very safe.
Okay.
Um, and I just thought, yeah, I was almost compelled to set up in Dava to change the way things were being done out there. And so for me, that was high stress.
Yeah.
Working 16-hour days, 7 days a week, 24/7. But the energy it gave me, I mean, okay, I was exhausted by the end of it, by the end of that first year, but how did I get through it? Absolute belief in myself and belief in what I did and what I do. I still do. I still love what I do. And it's this belief and the trust in myself. But I'd also just sit, at the end of the day, I would just sit and go, did I achieve what I needed to achieve today? And did I change people's lives today?
So you've talked about that first year a lot now. Would you, if you went back in time, would you change how you did that first year? Or would
Absolutely.
you would?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me tie that in with another question. Maybe just tying it in with what advice would you give to your younger self in terms of
Oh, yeah. Okay. So pace yourself.
I'm sitting down.
Um, you know, trust yourself more. Stop looking outside yourself for answers.
Nice.
But also manage things in bite-sized chunks. It'll all come good in the end, because it does and it has and it continues to.
Yeah.
And so, but it's the main thing was the main piece of advice is stop looking outside yourself for answers. you have all the answers that you need.
I love that.
Just when you sit in silence, when you are quiet, whether it's a meditative state or just being, you could be walking in nature, it doesn't really matter. I used to be a runner. Unfortunately, I can't run, I'm not out to run anymore. But running gave me freedom in my
Yeah.
head.
Mm.
And you hear this often from people. And when I was running, answers came.
Yeah.
So now it's a different way of doing it. So running was my meditation. Now I sit and I meditate. Sometimes I walk and I meditate.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't lie down and meditate because I fall asleep.
Okay. So I love that. And I talk a lot about, if you look around you in the especially in modern world, everyone's seeking a little bit more peace, everyone's seeking a little bit more stillness, and we look for it in less helpful ways like drinking alcohol or smoking something or overworking, and we look at it in more helpful ways sometimes. And the thing I try to say to people is the peace that you're seeking is already inside of you, it's just covered up.
Absolutely.
And when we can take the noise away, and the noise normally means the noise making machine in the head, the incessant thinking that happens, right? It could be all the stimulation of the world as well. That plays a huge part.
Yes, absolutely.
Once that settles, that peace comes through. And that's a more enduring and more lasting peace than the peace you feel when you get enough money to buy the Rolex. I'm pointing like I've got a Rolex, but or you get the £100,000 car, or you get the £2 million house. That will make you feel great and make you feel amazing for a while. But I think there's a deeper, more substantial, more powerful piece that's in you that's covered up. And when you can start to remove the layers, you talked about finding the answers too. I think the two things are really linked, right?
Of course they are.
And most people can understand, even if they say that's a load of woo-woo rubbish. Well, most people can relate to the fact that, and there's all these little cartoons people do, aren't there? Of, my best ideas come when I'm in the shower or when I'm out walking
Well,
my dog.
exactly. I was just about to say, often when I'm, talking to people, they say, oh, when I was in the shower. So because you're not thinking, you're not
Right.
anything except washing yourself
Yes.
or cooking. I know people who love to cook,
Yes.
and then things come to them when they're cooking.
Yeah.
And peace is your natural state.
Yeah.
I see it as your natural state. So
Yes.
it's when we fight against that for me is that's when we start to become anxious or depressed or worried or all of those things. But it also means we're not present.
Mm.
We're thinking about, well, what happened yesterday and what's going to happen tomorrow. I remember a teacher said to me, you can't be in 5 minutes time.
Right.
You can only be now.
Yeah.
So life for me is a series of now moments.
Mm. Absolutely. When I used to explain this, when I used to do presentations at IBM years ago,
Yeah,
and it's still one of my favorite things. And I say one of my favorite quotes of all time is Eckhart Tolle's "Realize deeply that the present moment is all there is." And
exactly.
one nice way of understanding that, explaining that to very macho and in particular, is to say, let's pretend I opened a bar, just opened this fancy new bar in London, right? And I put a sign above it, and the sign says, "Free drinks tomorrow for everybody." And how many drinks do I give away? Precisely none. Because Lynette, you come in and you say, "Steve, can I have a bottle of your finest Dom Perignon?" I say, "Look at the sign, Lynette, it's tomorrow free drinks." And you come back tomorrow and you say, "Steve, can I have a bottle of," and I say, "It's tomorrow, Lynette." You come back the next time and say, "It's tomorrow, Lynette." And I say, "It's tomorrow, Lynette." And so tomorrow, that tomorrow never comes in that sense. And when tomorrow does come, it's today, right? You can only think about the future in the present moment. You can only reflect on the past in the present moment. There is just this. And there's a powerful realization that happens, I think, when you truly understand that, rather than just kind of glibly kind of roll your eyes when you hear people saying it.
Absolutely. So I sometimes ask people if they understand, the meaning of being in flow.
Yes.
And most execs get it.
Today.
Uh, well, some of the people I speak to, sometimes they go, well, what do you mean by flow? So when you're absolutely in your moment, in the zone,
Yeah.
and I ask them, how often are they in the zone? And most people exaggerate
Right.
how long they're in the zone for.
Yeah.
can only be in it for finite, a moment in time. And
Yeah.
you have to break, because otherwise, it can drive you a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But if you look at elite athletes, if you look at, and I know often people use them as examples, but they're, whether they're an endurance athlete, I watch these guys who do, triathletes, but the one in Hawaii, which is crazy, or excuse me, the one across the desert, which is also crazy.
Yeah.
And I have a nephew in South Africa who did an ultra marathon. It was 100 miles or something. I mean, first of all, I think they're all crazy, but good luck to them. But it's testing their resolve.
Yeah.
So testing how long they can stay focused for.
Yeah.
And in the zone.
Yeah.
And people train for that.
Yeah.
But in a normal work situation, you might have a project to do and go, okay, I've got to finish it by Friday. So I'm going to do, some people leave it to the last minute. Well, I used to, I don't do that anymore. And some people, say, I'm going to put a proper project plan together, and I'm going to do 2 hours today, 2 hours tomorrow, whatever it might be. And in that 2 hours, that's all I'm going to focus on. And I work with people sometimes who need to do that. So I help them prepare before that. So, and put them in a mindfulness state to practice mindfulness, so that they can get into that zone and they recognize it when they're in that state.
Yeah.
And just do what they need to do solidly for 2 hours, and then can have a break and get on with the rest of their lives, whatever it might be.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, but let me ask
Oh,
you some
wow,
quick
already.
I know, sorry about
that. Sorry, no, too much. That's fine.
Some quick fire questions to close. Are you a
Go
morning person or an evening person?
Morning.
Emails or phone calls?
Phone calls.
I knew you can say that. Favorite food?
Favorite food? Oh, wow. Fish.
Oh, nice. Which one?
Halibut and sea bass are my favorite fish.
Oh, I love sea bass. I had some amazing sea bass in Italy. Best I've ever had. I used to catch it fresh, grill it in front of you, just grilled very nicely, very simple, olive oil, garlic. Something about eating sea bass in the sun for me.
Yeah. Yes.
Guilty pleasure, Lynette.
Well, it all depends. Dates. I eat dates as my guilty pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an addiction. But I also watch rubbish on television sometimes.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
You want to say which rubbish shows you watch or not?
Well,
for another podcast.
I like the I like baking programs and all of that.
Okay.
But I also watch NCIS or Hawaii 5 and those types of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too bad.
It's sad, but it's but then I like to read.
Okay, favorite book then. Let's finish on favorite book.
My favorite book, one of my favorite books, actually, it's called well, there are two. So one is by a Jesuit priest called Tattoos on the Heart, and the other is by a guy called Lawrence Anthony, who's sadly no longer with us, called The Elephant Whisperer.
Elephant Whisperer.
Yeah.
I'll look them up. We're out.
To read. Very hard to put down, make you laugh, cry, and everything in between.
Perfect. We're out of time, but Lynette.
Stories, that's why.
Okay. Lynette Deutsch, thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Calm in 15 minutes.
I hope I've answered all your questions.
You've been brilliant. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.